Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session. I am Nelly Yusupova. I am a CTO and a startup tech advisor, and look forward to this call this week. I try to do these calls every week, but it seems to be every other week lately because of my schedule. It's nice to see everybody here. For those of you who don't know me, I am a CTO and a startup tech advisor. I've been a CTO working with startups for over 18 years and managing teams and projects. And I've also created an online program called Tech Speak for Entrepreneurs back in 2012. It used to be a boot camp that I would teach over a weekend, and we can talk about that a little bit later. Uh, and I created it after speaking to thousands of entrepreneurs at different conferences and events that where I spoke, and just heard a lot of horror stories from non-technical founders, first-time founders, not knowing how to effectively and efficiently manage a team and project, and losing thousands of dollars to mistakes and things that I thought could easily be avoided if I taught them how to do it. So that's what I did. I created a 10-step process. I called it Tech Speak for Entrepreneurs, and I taught it over a weekend. Now this program is online, and I often come up and talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. So these sessions are designed to answer a lot of the questions that you have. We are also live on a lot of different social channels that I am streaming live to. So this session is being recorded. If you have a question in from any of our social channels, just ask in the chat. I have a chat that comes from all the social channels into one place, so I will be able to answer your questions. And if you are in Clubhouse or if you are on other social channels and want to ask the question live, join us in Clubhouse. I am Digital Woman in Clubhouse. And raise your hand to come up to the stage, and we will have a conversation. This session is going to be about an hour, and I usually started with a little something that I'm thinking about, either from one of my coaching sessions or something that happened over the week, and kind of to frame the conversation, and then we'll just dive into the questions. So for those of you who are also interested in free resources, I have lots and lots of webinars that are available on demand at techspeakforentrepreneurs.com, which is a link pinned to this chat in Clubhouse, or just go to techspeak.co everywhere else. Just click on free classes, and there are 4 classes that are currently available. One is how non-techies can launch successful tech startups, how to build an MVP without a technical co-founder, how to cut your product development costs by up to 50%, and another session that I'm doing live on Tuesday called How to Reach Product Market Fit Really Quickly, where we talk about all the different metrics that you need to understand to know that you're on the way to product market fit. We'll define it, and then I'll share a process for being able to get there really quickly. So if you're interested in any of those workshops, they are absolutely free as a way to get started to learn about some of the things that I will teach you guys. So I'm a big lean and agile methodologies coach and trainer. I prescribe to those methodologies religiously because in my career, I've done both. I've done the traditional way of building products and the lean way of building products. And after a mistake, that colossal mistake that we've made, where we've basically wasted 9 months of resources, of time and money and developer resources, building something that we thought would completely change everything for the business. And it was received with lukewarm response. It wasn't the amazing success that we thought it was going to be. And instead of really listening to what our users needed, we assumed that this is what they needed, and we put all of our resources behind that. And that was the big mistake that I made, that completely shifted the way that I decided things needed to be done. And so I already have prescribed to the lean way of building products, talking to customers, getting their feedback, understanding how to incorporate their feedback into the product development process. And then the lean startup became a thing. So Eric Ries is the grandfather of it. He wrote the book called The Lean Startup. So this is something brand new to you. That is also a great book to start reading on the topic. So that's going to be a great introduction to it. So in any case, that's kind of an introduction about me, how I work, and when you guys have questions and come up to the stage, you can ask me more details around that. So the topic I want to talk about today is the value of coaching. So I had a coaching student the other day, and we had this whole discussion about how much value she was getting by working with a coach. Me, of course. And as a fractional CTO, a lot of my work involves coaching the founders who take my programs, the developers that work with me for my consulting clients, that I often find that founders don't realize how much value they gain by working with a coach. The I know I know it all attitude, or I can figure this out on my own, or I will hustle my way through this, is actually costing you time, which as entrepreneurs, we think we have a lot of time, but in reality, time is our most valuable asset. In any industry, if you think about it, an athlete, a singer, an actor, to further their career, to further themselves, the first thing they do is get a coach. And it doesn't stop there once they get their first Olympic medal or a Grammy Award or whatever else, right? They get more and more coaches to be at the top of their game. So this is the mindset that I think I want you guys to kind of reframe today as a conversation. Although high performing founders don't share this, I know a lot of them have coaches and advisors that they work with on a regular basis. And I think that this is a topic that doesn't get discussed a lot in the startup community. There's this whole hustle culture, try to figure it out at the cheapest way possible. But what we're not realizing is by getting from point A to point B faster is actually saving us a lot of time and a lot of money. So the benefits of coaching are highly visible. In my own experience with working and coaching founders, my founders become more confident. They start to make better decisions the first time around. They hire better people. They know how to ask better questions. They know how to spot their weaknesses and how to communicate better, how to lead better. And the list goes on and on and on. The value of getting from point A to point B faster as a result of working with a coach will always, always, always pay dividends to you. And the value is being able to cut the learning time and save on possibly years of time and money on mistakes. The value is in being able to learn what you think you know, or what you don't know, right? The value is being able to shortcut the learning process and benefit from someone's experience. So the question I want you to ponder this week as we go into the weekend is, do you need a coach to help you get from point A to point B faster? Have you spent more time on something or trying to solve a problem that by simply talking to someone, and if you have to pay them for that, for their time, and getting the answer, getting the benefit of their experience, and is trying to figure it out on your own to save a little bit of money, is actually costing you not only money, but very, very valuable time. Think about it. Time is our most precious commodity. You can't get it back. And missing the opportunity in the startup space is a very, very real thing. So make it practical. Make a list of all of the areas in your business and maybe even your personal life, right? Because sometimes coaching is not necessarily the decisions you make in business, but what is happening in your personal life that may be preventing you or affecting in how you show up in your business, right? So look at and think about it. This is your weekend homework. look at all areas of your life and think of all the things that you could be working on that could help you show up better as a founder. Uh, where are you pushing the boulder up the hill, and think you can shortcut that learning process and help move you from point A to point B a lot faster. And then once you have the list, then you can start to take action on it, decide who you can work with and who you can call, who can you tap into. Sometimes it can be free, sometimes you can get a mentor to spend 15 minutes with you, but there is a value in paying someone to help you get there a lot faster. So that's the topic discussion and the challenge that I have for you guys this week. And now I am happy to answer questions. So if you have a question, come up to the stage, raise your hand, and I am going to bring you up to the stage and answer whatever questions that you guys may have. We have Olivia H in the house joining us on LinkedIn. If you have questions, Olivia, type them into the chat. If you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube, type your questions into the chat, and I'm going to keep an eye on it so that you get your questions answered as well. So with that, I am going to refresh and see. I think we have Cheeto here first. Cheeto, feel free to unmute and ask your question. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Well, and good morning, Nelly and everybody. The question I have is, and this may be you, this person, I'm looking for an unbiased technology person because right now I'm looking to build a website. And my competitors are using this platform called Ruby on Rails. And I'm a guy that's been very familiar with WordPress, have used WordPress for a very long time, but I can't, if I speak to a Ruby on Rails developer, he's going to tell me how amazing it is. And if I speak to a WordPress developer, he's going to tell me how amazing it is. And I need an unbiased person to see what my needs are and find out why my competitors using Ruby on Rails and which platform will be the best for what I need for my website.
That's a great question, Cheeto. So I'm going to take this from all different sides. And I hopefully, as you guys see me evaluate, the answer here is how you should be evaluating these similar type of questions, okay? So the solution that you need to pick and the technology stack that you should be using for whatever it is that that you're trying to build should depend on many different things, including what you're building, how you're building, are you building for the long term or the short term? What are the hypotheses that you're trying to test? How quickly do you need to move, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, what is the platform that's going to help you launch faster so that you can start to learn faster? Every single person, if you ask whatever expert, like you say, if you ask a Ruby on Rails developer, what should I be using? Ruby on Rails developer will always tell you Ruby on Rails. WordPress developer will tell you WordPress. And the reason why is because you can literally develop pretty much anything in any of those platforms. There are pros and cons to using one or the other from a scaling perspective. But I always teach my founders at the early stages, you need to be doing something that will allow you to move quickly. So if you, Chibo, already know WordPress and you can, in a weekend, build the website to be able to test out your idea, that's what you should be using. And if down the line you're going to, let's say, outgrow WordPress, guess what? Rebuilding that version 2 is going to be something that you're going to have to do. But what you're going to get as a value of, let's say, it gets you a year into learning, right? The amount of learning you're going to get in that year to inform on the best way to build version 2 of your platform is going to be incredible. And guess what? Because technology moves so quickly, in a year or two, you could be using a completely different technology, right? So don't get hung up on what technology I should use. Figure out I always optimize for speed and cost, right? And in the earlier stages, that becomes even more important than in the later stages. So that's the mindset that I have. To me, it's all about learn early, learn often, and learn cheap, and being able to move quickly so that you can identify, is this something that my customers care about? Most people focus so much on the solution, they spend thousands of dollars on building the solution. It's the most robust thing. It can scale to millions of users. But what's the point of that when you have 5 users or 100 or even 1,000, right? If you have this mindset of customers first, I need to figure out that this is something that they're going to pay for, care about, use. You need to think about scaling a lot, scaling to millions of users a lot later. So that's the approach that I have, and hopefully that was helpful to you.
Yeah, thank you. Because I was getting, like I said, I was getting stuck on the solution. But the most important thing is, because I'm super familiar with WordPress, it's about speed and also validating and making sure that, because I don't want to build a fancy tool that nobody cares about.
Exactly.
So get to validate your thing first, and then from there, if you're getting tons of clients, then you can afford to take the time or the money to do whatever you need to do.
Absolutely. And WordPress scales really well if you actually know what you're doing. There is so many different ways to scale WordPress that it's may never become an issue for you. But again, in the beginning, I would highly recommend everyone to optimize for speed and cost. Learning really fast is what you should be focused on at the very beginning stages of your startup. There's a website that I recently heard called I think it's called the Startup Graveyard. I forgot the URL, but basically the whole idea is that there's a lot of websites that never saw the light of day, ideas that were brilliant ideas or thought to be brilliant ideas by founders that never made it, simply because they were building the solution first and then finding the users, finding the market. What I prescribe to and what I teach my founders is find the customer base first. Understand that you are actually solving a real problem for them that they will be willing to pay you for with time or money or both, hopefully both. Because if you're solving a level 7 or 5 or 6 problem, which is what, when I work with founders and they start out with their brilliant idea, it's always a level 5, 6, or 7 problem. They don't do the diligence to be able to iterate their idea, understand the pain points enough so that they know with confidence before building anything that their idea or their potential customers will actually pay you money for it, right? And that's a big problem in the startup industry right now in general. Way too many people fall in love with a solution. They want to just build. But you should be falling in love with the problem, not the solution. Cheeto, hopefully that's helpful to you. Do you have any other questions before?
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You are welcome. And Cheeto, if you want to learn the process that I use for managing that whole the entire product development process using some of these methodologies, go check out a lot of the free workshops that I have on TechSpeak, which is the link pinned in into the room. All right, we have Hannah here next. Hannah, welcome to the stage.
Hi, Nelly. First time listening on your room. I noticed that you've been using the word coach, and I know that some people prefer to use coach and mentor interchangeably, but others have different definitions for the two. So I just wonder what you think of the meaning of coaching and mentoring. Thank you.
Great question. So to me, when I say a coach is usually somebody that you work with on a regular basis, and there's usually a paid relationship with the coach. So A coach could be focused on specific areas in your life. Like, so I focus on product development and tech and startups, early stage startups, right? So when people work with me as a coach, I give them training, and then I also work with them to help them implement it and work on mindset and actual confidence and all of these things that are related to being a leader of a tech startup. So that's a very specific thing. There, you can get a coach on how to be a better CEO. You can get a leadership coach, you can get a communication coach, and then you work with them on a regular basis on some period of time, whether it's weekly, daily, every month, every quarter, and you are working on a specific skill. And that's why at the beginning, I actually asked you to make a list of the different areas in your life where you can get better, because as you get better as a person, not just in your professional life, you show up better in your business life. So that could be time management. It could be any skill, right? So to me, coaching is focusing on skills. Mentorship is more, it's usually free, and it's, you tap on somebody on the shoulder to ask questions. Then they can help you get from point A to point B, but it's usually not a paid relationship. So how a lot of people ask me, like, how do I get mentors? And oftentimes I get mentors not formally. It always usually starts as an informal relationship where I just, if I have a specific question from some expert that I think can help me, I would be very, very respectful with their time and say, hey, I know you're an expert in this. These are 2 questions that I'm hoping you could answer. And they usually do, because I'm being very, very specific about the questions, and it wouldn't take them more than 10, 15 minutes to answer those. And then I, of course, thank them and come back and show them that I took action on whatever it is that they recommended and or advised. And so over time, that relationship can grow into a deeper mentorship relationship, but maybe it's a one-off thing. And that's how I view mentorship. Most people think of mentorship as, I need to be able to work with this person all the time. But the time commitments, and people are all very, very busy now. It's very, very hard to get someone to work with you for free on a regular basis, unless this is a person that wants to really work with you for whatever reason, right? So that's the way that I distinct it. I don't know if you agree with that, or if you have a different definition. I'd love to hear it.
Well, thank you for your opinion. I respect it. I don't have any distinction for those 2, so I'm really happy to hear about your version of it. Maybe I have a follow-up question about what you think of whether a coach or a mentor takes dry shares of a startup. I've heard different opinions from both the founder side and the mentor side. So I'm wondering what your opinion is regarding this matter.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm going to repeat it for everybody else in case you haven't heard it. So do you offer, or should you offer, equity to a mentor and or a coach? So the answer is yes, if you feel like this person can help you tremendously, right? If you are now, let's say you start off with that 15-minute mentorship relationship, and you find that this person just really adds so much value to your whatever, either business or your personal life, or you as a person, and that you need to be able to have this person and their perspectives, their advice on a regular basis, then you could formalize that relationship and actually ask them to formally work with you. So anytime you are giving away equity, you should do your due diligence. You should have worked with this person and really aligned with them and said, like, you have to have this feeling that this is the person I want to have on my cap table, because they have been giving me so much. I want to thank them in return, right? Because hopefully you are going to grow the company, and eventually this person will reap the financial benefit from that. The reason to possibly give equity to coaches is so that you can, work with them, because coaches usually give you a lot more time. They work with you on a regular basis. You usually pay them. And so when you um, offer equity to a coach, you either get a discounted rate or a free way of working with them, right? So they're giving you time in exchange for equity, or a reduction of their fees in exchange for equity. And the benefit again there is, you've worked with them before, that they need to be on your cap table. They've helped you so much. One thing to be careful of when you're working with coaches is that at different stages in your startup, you may outgrow your coaches, and or you need to work on different skill sets, because as a founder, the things that you need to work on may change. So you should, when you're thinking about vesting your shares with a coach, you don't want to commit to maybe 2 or 3 years with them, because in 2 or 3 years, you may not need their expertise anymore, or you are going to be, as a business, beyond them. So think of maybe 12 month increments, and then with the opportunity to renew, right? So that's how I would approach it. It's definitely possible. It's not something you should be offering right at the beginning, because anytime anybody asks me, do you work for equity? I always say yes, but anytime we have conversations around equity, I actually now need to look at your business from an investor standpoint. Are you able to do the things that you say you could, right? And so it's very, very hard at the beginning to know anything on a deep level without actually working with the founder first, to know, do they have the potential? How quickly are they learning? Is this something that I believe they can do? So not at the beginning. I always I know when a founder is not experienced is when they offer me that right at the beginning. So we just met either on Clubhouse or through my workshops or somewhere else. And the first thing they ask me is, do you work for equity? Do you want to work with us? And unless you are farther along and you already have traction, the chances of you becoming attractive from that perspective is going to be very, very hard. So take your time, get to know your coaches. It's not just about the skill sets, it's about understanding the value, right? Do they have a value fit with your company? Do they have the same type of vision that you have? So for example, I am very focused on the lean way of building products. If somebody asks me to be a coach and advise them as a CTO or fractional CTO, and they don't use these methodologies, they are a traditional way of building products type company, we're never going to work out, right? I could be the best thing for them, but if they're not using and leveraging my expertise, then it's just going to be a waste. So get to know people, make sure that you're aligned on what your approaches are, and that's when you're going to get the most benefit from those relationships. Hopefully that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome, Hannah. Great questions. Let's take a question from Lorraine here. So Lorraine is asking a question in Facebook. I have finished my business plan, user stories, wireframe, and clickable prototype. I've been getting feedback on the prototype and making some changes. I'm working on outlining the different sprints to create my MVP. My challenge is finding developers. So building off of your last answer, do you have any strong opinions on low code or no code apps so I can do things myself fast and cheap rather than hiring a development team? I love that question, Lorraine. And the answer is absolutely. So I am a big proponent of no code and low code tools. There is so much advantage from a speed perspective to be able to move really quickly and learning what the customers actually need. So I'm a huge proponent of using no-code and low-code tools if you are using them strategically. I have somebody actually in my TechSpeak program, a woman who, for the first year of her startup experience, slapped together a whole bunch of no-code tools to prove out the solution. She actually got paying customers, and so she then joined the program to actually learn how to manage developers so that she could start to implement some of these strategies over time, right? And the way that you start to scale, right, when you are ready to move outside of the no-code tools, let's say you outgrow them, you're not going to wipe necessarily everything that you've already built, but you're starting to scale the pieces that are breaking, the pieces that are no longer scaling. And so strategically, your goal as a founder should be to launch something as quickly as possible, iterate on it as fast as you can so you can learn what do people resonate with, what works, what doesn't work. It's most ideas fail not because they couldn't be built, but because no one wanted them in the first place. So that's why you are approaching all of these build technologies strategically so that it's optimized for speed and cost. And then over time, you can start to optimize where you need it. So that's my approach. I would recommend that you evaluate the no-code tools and low-code tools. And if you are able to get there quicker, absolutely use them. By the way, a lot of no-code and low-code tools can scale pretty well, depending on which tools you use. There's so much on the market nowadays that it's incredible what's happening in this space. And oftentimes finding any shortcuts that can get you to product market fit really quickly, I'm all for it. So great question. Let's take a question from Clubhouse. Mohammed, I believe you're next. So feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Thank you so much. Hope you're doing good. Actually, I just want to ask, like, I don't know, like, which value can I offer the, like, my coach or my mentor or any CTO? A lot of CTOs I meet, for example, they come to give speeches in school, whatever. So I don't know which value can I bring to them, like to ask them for coaching or bring in value to my startup. And I don't know if there should be a value exchange or something like that, so that they can give me advice or like.
Yeah. So Mohammed. Sorry, Mohammed. Is your name Ben or Mohammed?
Yeah, it's Mohammed.
It's Mohammed.
It's
Okay. Okay, Mohammed Ben. Okay. So let me just get this straight, just to understand your question better. So you're an early stage entrepreneur. Are you technical or non-technical?
Yeah, I'm technical. I'm technical more.
Okay, so you have some technical background. And so your question is, how do you get more experienced CTOs to come and coach you and answer questions that you might have, to basically tap into them when you need the help, if you feel like you have nothing to offer them? Is that correct, in exchange?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. So the reason why anyone would help you in general is because they either like you as a person, they want you to succeed, or they see there's an opportunity with your startup. So oftentimes, anytime you're going to get a coach or someone to help you on a mentorship basis, you have to build a relationship with them. You have to go out and network, meet the people. You over time see that, hey, this is a person that can add so much value to me. And just by interacting with them, you can really understand what drives them, what motivates them. Maybe they have a full-time job that they absolutely hate, and they just want to feel the freedom of maybe working and advising a startup. And that's what their motivation is. Maybe they want to get a piece of whatever like if we're talking about equity here, a piece of a startup, because there is an upside for them to exchange that value. So there's so many different nuances, and the motivation for each person is different, which is why I always say build the relationship with the person, meet them, and understand what is it that is going to drive them to help you. And over time, you are going to try to create a relationship or a situation where there's an even exchange. Sometimes they just want to feel alive, to be a part of something different than what they get at work. And sometimes it's money, sometimes it's maybe just working with you. Maybe it's about learning new technologies that they don't get access to. Once you understand the motivation, it's so much easier to see what the value exchange could be. Okay, so that's the way I would recommend that you go about this, and make it organic. Don't force it. Understand how you can provide value and talk about it. It's all about conversation. It's all about communicating.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mohammed. Let's see. We'll take one more question here from LinkedIn. We have Nate, who is a student. Hi, Nate. He is asking, when creating a clickable prototype, what are the essentials to present to a dev team? So in my TechSpeak program, I talk in a lot of detail on the importance of creating technical specifications. So your clickable prototypes will have no value to your developers without very detailed technical specifications. And this is where you can communicate in the language that your developers understand on what needs to be done, how it needs to be done. So technical specifications along with the prototype is what you need to be presenting to developers. Great question, Nate. Let's jump back into Clubhouse. Saeed is next. Feel free to unmute. And then we have another question that I'll take from Facebook after that.
Hi, Nelly. Thank you for giving me a chance to come and speak over here. First time listening, and I feel like it's really good content. I just have a quick question, right? Really appreciate the coaching part and understand the importance of getting a nice coach and making your overall workflow and progress more efficient. You can, wherever you're supposed to be in 5 years, getting a coach can maybe take you there in like 2 or 1 year. What I have been challenging with is finding the right coach. So I just wanted to seek your counsel on that one, if you had any tips or tricks to share how to find the right coach for yourself.
So Saeed, you ask a really good question. I think the important thing is to make a list, right? I always, anytime I don't know where to start, I always make a list. So the things that are important to you. So it's just like finding a partner in life, right? You need to know what are the things that are important to you that you are looking for. So the first thing is, which area do you need work with in, and then you start to identify some of the influencers and or people that could potentially help you with that. So if it's in tech, it would be one thing. If it's in just as a CEO level type coach or mental health or whatever it is, right? So like very specific things, so that you can then understand who are the people that potentially could help you. So make a list of that. Then also make a list of the values that you have and you would want them to have. So one of the values, for example, that I have is when I work with clients and or founders, I do the same thing. I'm a very positive person, and I do not like working with people who are downers and they see a problem in everything versus an opportunity. So anytime there's somebody that comes across with that mindset, immediately it's a no, right? So you need to make a list of all the things that are really important to you as a person, to you as a company. Those are values that you should be looking for in that potential coach. And then it's all about going out and reaching out to the people that you potentially think could be the people who could help you, and start to, in some way, engaging with them, right? And building relationships, seeing, are they really the person that I thought they were? Because they could be a great advisor, but maybe they're not the right fit on a cultural level. So that's through the engagements is how you're going to get to know them a little bit, and then maybe you tap into them for some mentorship, right? You send them a few questions that they can answer and see how they do that. And I think over time you will know who is the person who is contributing the most that you maybe should approach for more, right? And then figure out, depending on how many hours you think you need, is this going to be a mentor relationship because it's a one-off thing once in a while? Is this going to be an advisor relationship because, again, it's once in a while? Or is this really a coach, someone that you want to work with on a regular basis? And what is that going to look like, right? Do they have the time? Do they have the bandwidth? Do they do this kind of work? Because not everybody does coaching work. Like deep coaching work. Not everybody's good at it. So there's a big difference between advising somebody on a like one-off basis and actually working with someone and helping them make the progress that you need them to make. So that's how I would approach that problem. It's going to take a while, which is why I always say network. Always know the types of people that you think you will need along the way to make you a better leader, better founder, better everything. And that over time, you already have those relationships, and potentially by the time you know, let's say you need a CTO coach or a marketing coach or whatever it is, you already know these people. You already know the 2 or 3 people that you want. And then when you need them, you just ask them.
Okay.
That's where you want to get to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I got to start networking.
It is the number one thing every entrepreneur should be doing on a regular basis. So many founders, they just like to get down and look and solve the problem that they think they need to solve. But if you have a network you can tap into, you can get there so much faster, right? The difference between founders who can raise a lot of money and who can't is their network. The founders who can hire really easily versus those who can't is their network, right? So it's just your network is going to make or break you as an entrepreneur. So that's another action point for everyone. Start networking today.
Cool. Can I add something to that point, Nelly?
Yeah.
Networking.
Absolutely.
Because I'm in the music industry. I'm in Toronto. So this past weekend was the Juno Awards, which is the equivalent to the Grammys. And so I had it in my notepad. Who am I looking for? And who do I want to speak to? Who are the type of people I want to speak to at this award? Because all the top music people are going to be there. And so one of them was like a music lawyer, a booking agent, or whatever. And when I went to one of the galas, this woman I just randomly met was a booking agent. I was like, "Oh, you're one of the people that I'm looking for, actually." And she gave me her email address, and I followed up via email. So, because I've been through many sessions and conferences or whatever, but having a specific goal of like, who am I looking for? What type of people? What position? What exactly am I looking for? And writing it down on my memo pad. And so I continue to look at it. Oh yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So you don't get distracted through all the networking and the partying or the whatever is happening. I just did that. I implemented it this past weekend, and I got like 5 contacts that really helped me. Are going to help me.
I absolutely love that. I'm actually going to share a strategy that networking wizard, a friend of mine, does, and hopefully you can steal that strategy as well. So before she went to a conference, she would actually look through all the attendees and speakers and look at their profiles. She would spend hours doing this, preparing basically prior to the conference, and make a list of all the potential people she wanted to meet and why. And while she was at the conference, she already knew exactly what they looked like because she basically stalked them online prior to the conference. She knew a little bit things about them that they've recently either tweeted or posted. So those are rapport builders that very quickly can spark a conversation. And she already had very specific, possibly even questions that she could ask them, that, talking about on-demand mentorship, right? That she can ask them in person and get answers. And so that was just incredible networking on steroids. And I think if you are able to do that and, go to conferences, not just to go to the parties, but really take advantage of the time that you're spending there and meet the people that you need to meet. It's a great way to start the networking process. Saeed, did you have any other questions before we move away from this topic?
No, that was all good stuff. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Cheers.
You're welcome. All right, so we have one more question from Facebook. Lorraine is asking, do you have certain low-code and no-code tools that you recommend? I found some like Bubble that do not transition out of their platform. My concern is building something to test my business ideas, only have to throw away them later. So Lorraine, I like Bubble. There's lots of different and interesting ways to scale Bubble as well. But and as a company, they'll probably evolve, and maybe at some point they will become a low-code tool versus just a no-code tool. But there's so many platforms that are popping up that actually give you the code. There's so many, and the reason why I can't recommend one to you specifically is because I need to know what you're building, how you're building, and that is really ultimately what's going to inform you on what's the best way what's the best tool to use. But if you are concerned, which I don't think you should be concerned around, like not being able to throw away code, as I mentioned, technology changes so quickly that in a year or two, you may need to rebuild everything from scratch. You can't believe how many people I know who had to custom build their entire platform only to throw away their entire thing that they custom built 2 years later, because so much has changed and they were actually solving the wrong problem, right? So, and like a lot of people think that everything that you build is permanent, but it gets outdated, and rewriting code is a part of your process, which is why so many companies have developers on staff, right? This is an ongoing thing. Like once you start building, you never ever stop, because you're constantly improving, you're constantly rewriting. And if something is going to buy you a year or two of freedom and time to be able to actually understand what will customers pay for, throwing that away is not a waste. Throwing that away is not a waste, because it bought you 6 months to a year worth of learning that is invaluable. Okay, so shift your perspective and look at it from that lens. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful to you, Lorraine. We have somebody raising their hand for most likely the last question. As KK is coming up to the stage, I want to remind everybody that if you are resonating with anything that I'm saying, if you want to learn the process that I teach founders, I have free webinars that you can attend. They're on demand to start learning this process. So if you're non-technical, there are 2 webinars that you can take advantage of: how non-technical founders can launch successful tech startups. how to build an MVP without a technical co-founder. If you're farther along and you want to focus on optimizing your process and shift to the lean way of building products, check out how to cut your product development costs by up to 50% webinar. That one is actually going to break down the process and do the calculations of how many thousands of dollars you're wasting building the traditional way versus the lean way. And finally, I'm doing a live webinar on Tuesday, May 24th. And that webinar is focused on how to find product market fit really quickly. And there we'll talk about the different metrics you need to track to understand whether or not you're on the path to reaching product market fit and the exact process you should be using to get there really fast. So check out those webinars on techspeak.co, or if you're in Clubhouse, you can just click the link pinned to the top of the room and check those out. Click on free classes and you'll see the list of classes there. All right, so KK Ma, feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, Nelly. Thank you for your sharing. This is my first time as well, so thank you for the very useful information. But you emphasized multiple times about we have to target the problems in the market before we hand out our solutions. So how do we let the people know that we are worth helping for, without we promoting our solution to them?
Yeah, so talking to customers is an art. It's a great question. So how do you talk to customers without showing them the solution? And it's an art. You need to figure out, number one, who is going to be your potential target customer. That's number one. So you're building a persona. And I also teach all of this stuff in my trainings. So if you need a step-by-step guide how to do it, check out the resources that I already have. The key to talking to customers is building the rapport. So you could say something like, hey, I am trying to solve a problem in this area, and I know you're an expert, and I'd love to ask you a few questions, right? And again, it's about information gathering. It's about learning, listening, and discovering rather than leading them to any specific solution. That's the biggest mistake a lot of founders make, is that they fall in love with their solution so much that even when they say that they've talked to customers, they actually didn't, because all they did is got a validation that the solution that they think needs to exist actually needs to exist. It's shocking to me how biased entrepreneurs are towards the solution that they actually want to solve, regardless of what's, the point of the interview is to actually understand, is this a level 12 out of 10 problem? So completely forgetting about their solution. So I'm going to share an example of a student of mine who came into the program with an actual prototype, again, focused on the solution. She says to me, I'm a veteran in this industry. I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't need to do validation. I know through my interviews and talking to customers, I've been talking to customers for 20 years. I do this on a daily basis. I know this is the solution that they need. So then she learned my validation process and, not leading your customers. And so she, by me kind of pushing her in that direction, did some customer interviews. And in her second interview, she discovered one insight that she was never aware of. And then she continued to, over the next 2 weeks, share that insight or validate that insight with potential customers. And she realized that this one insight actually required a completely different spin on the solution that she originally thought needed to be built. Her original idea was a part of the solution, but it wasn't the main part. And so these are the types of things that if you are able to uncover the nuances around the problem, that if you're able to uncover before you build the product, you're going to save yourself so much time and money. I mean, imagine her wasting 2 years of her life trying to sell a solution that people felt lukewarm about. Obviously, she was already about 80% there, but that 20% of nuance and an insight that she got, that she was able to refine before she built something, that was gold. It saved her years of potentially going in the wrong direction, trying to sell the solution that nobody really resonated with, and she wouldn't even know why. This is the story of that I hear of like entrepreneurs on a daily basis. Entrepreneurs basically rolling a boulder uphill, trying to sell a solution that no one is actually resonating with, and they keep doing it. And if that's you right now, if you have a hard time getting your customers to use your product, to stay on your product, to come back to using your product on a regular basis, you can't figure out how to market to them. You may be talking to the wrong customer, you may be solving the wrong problem, or you may be solving the problem the wrong way. And it's your job as the founder to consistently iterate, go back to the validation step, do that really well so you can understand the nuances around the problem, and making sure that you're solving high enough problems that people are actually going to be willing to pay you money for, and that you're addressing the right market. Sometimes you're solving the best problem on the planet, but if your customers don't have money or are not willing to pay you money for it, guess what? You don't have a business, right? Your job is to find a business. So you possibly need to find alternative ways to fund your solution. And just because something you think needs to exist doesn't necessarily mean that people are willing to pay money for that. And that's why it's so important to know all of that before you build your products, to understand, is this going to be an easy business to build? And what exactly do I need in order to possibly, let's say, change behavior, right? Let's say your customers, I was talking to one of my new students yesterday who's in healthcare. He wants to change the way people do healthcare. We had this long conversation about, people would rather take a pill than get off the couch and go for a mile walk. And that's the reality, right? And if you want to change people's behavior, that's going to be a really hard thing to do. And as a founder, you want to know that. And, those approaches, those nuances, those insights will help you understand what's the first thing you need to do. How do you enter this market and eventually penetrate it? Because there needs to be a lot of education that needs to be done to be able to change people's behavior. That's what we're doing in validation, so that it can really help us understand how to solve problems better, faster, more efficiently. And it's not about building the product. Building the product, in hindsight, I know to non-technical founders, it seems like it's the hardest thing, but in fact, it is the easiest thing to do. To find a business, right? To find out how to build a business around your idea is the hardest thing to do. And that's why for some founders, it's a 5 or 10 year cycle. And, it's a constant iteration. Save yourself a lot of time and a lot of heartache by building things the lean way. And then you can be iterating a lot faster on that over time. So I'll talk more about that in my How to Reach Product Market Fit workshop on Tuesday. So sign up for that and I'll see you there. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Amazing questions. I love everyone who came up to the stage. Do your homework. You have a challenge here. I'm basically calling you out here. I want you to make a list of all the things that you think you need to work on and try to figure out how to network yourself in to working with the coaches that can help you get from point A to point B faster. There is so much value that you're going to get to be able to learn. And don't be afraid to pay for expertise, because the amount of time and money they're going to save for you in hindsight is going to be able to save you so much more. Okay. I'm going to get off my soapbox. Hopefully you see the value in that. Thanks again.
Nelly, quick question on
Yes.
your on-demand webinars.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm on your website right now.
Yep.
Are you able to pause, or no? You just gotta keep watching.
So that webinar, you can't pause, but then once you finish watching, you are going to get a replay. And in the replay, you would be able to watch the whole thing. But I want you, the reason why I actually didn't want a platform where you could pause is because I want people to set aside the time. I teach, my webinars are very action oriented. There's a lot of commitments that I ask you to make, and those commitments are your action steps. So I want you to set aside the time to actually do the work while you're there, which is why I don't allow you to pause. I actually want you to be a part of it. So it feels like it's a live experience.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you guys so much. I look forward to seeing you hopefully either next week or the week after. I'm trying to make Friday probably a regular day. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of this. Check out a lot of the resources that I already have that are available to you. And I look forward to working with some of you in the near future. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.